I still remember the exact second my husband smiled when I said I was pregnant. It wasn't joy, it wasn't shock, it wasn't even confusion, it was relief. And that's when fear quietly settled in my chest. We were standing in the kitchen, the morning light spilling across the counter, turning dust into gold. I had rehearsed a moment 100 times in my head, how I'd say it, where I'd stand, how his face would soften the way it always did when he was happy. I held the test in my hand like it was something fragile, something sacred. Pregnant, I said. He looked at the test, then at me, and then he smiled. Too calm, too measured, like a man who had just heard something he already knew. Before I continue, let me ask you something. Where are you watching this story from right now? Drop your country or city in the comments. I truly want to thank you for being here. And if you enjoy emotional, suspense-filled stories like this, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this with someone who loves deep stories as much as you do. Because this story isn't about motherhood, it's about betrayal wearing a beautiful face. My husband, Aaron, had always been gentle. That was the word people used when they talked about him. Gentle, kind, reliable, the kind of man who remembered birthdays, who held doors open for strangers, who called his mother every Sunday without fail. When we married, my friends told me I was lucky. You found a good one, they said, and I believed them. For 7 years, Aaron never raised his voice at me, never accused me of anything, never questioned my late nights or my sudden trips or the way I guarded my phone like it held my pulse. He trusted me, and I used that trust like a weapon. The pregnancy wasn't planned, not by him, not even by me, or at least, that's what I told him. The truth was more complicated. The truth always is. Aaron wanted a child more than anything. He talked about it the way some people talk about destiny. Names, schools, little shoes by the door. I, on the other hand, smiled and nodded and delayed. Maybe next year. Let's travel first. I'm not ready yet. What I never said out loud was that I was terrified, not of motherhood, but of being tied down to a life where I wasn't the center anymore. When Aaron smiled after my announcement, I told myself I was imagining things. Are you happy? I asked, watching his face carefully. He stepped forward and hugged me, warm and familiar. Of course I am. But his hands lingered on my back a little too long. His breath was too steady. His heartbeat didn't race the way I expected. Nine. He cooked dinner. He poured wine for me out of habit, then stopped himself and laughed softly. Guess that's not for you anymore. I laughed too. I always laughed at the right moments. What Aaron didn't know, what no one knew, was that I had already told someone else about the pregnancy. Not my mother, not my sister, another man. His name was Lucas, and I had been seeing him for almost a year. Lucas was everything Aaron wasn't. Sharp, observant, intense. He didn't look at me like it was precious. He looked at me like I was dangerous, like I could ruin him if I wanted to, and he'd let me. We met at a conference out of town. One drink turned into two. Two turned into a hotel room. I told myself it was a mistake. Mistakes don't last a year. With Lucas, I felt alive in a way marriage had never given me. He asked questions Aaron never asked. He challenged me. He doubted me. He didn't trust me, and I loved that I had to earn his attention. When I told him I was pregnant, there was silence on the line. Is it mine? He asked finally. I don't know, I said. That wasn't entirely true. The smile Aaron gave me that morning followed me all day at work, in the elevator, in the bathroom mirror. By evening I was restless. I texted Lucas. He smiled. That was all I wrote. A few seconds later, my phone buzzed. That's not good. I stared at the message longer than I should have. That night, I lay in bed beside my husband, listening to the rhythm of his breathing. He reached for my hand in his sleep, lacing his fingers through mine like he always did. I felt nothing, no guilt, no warmth, just calculation. If the baby was Aaron's, my life would change forever. If it was Lucas's, everything would explode either way. I was the one holding the match the next morning. Aaron insisted on coming with me to the doctor. I want to hear everything, he said, smiling again. That same calm smile. In the waiting room, he scrolled through his phone while I watched. Couples around us whisper and laugh nervously. When the nurse called my name, Aaron stood immediately, placing a hand on my lower back like he was claiming something. The ultrasound confirmed what we already knew. 8 weeks. Aaron squeezed my hand, his eyes shining. We're really doing this, I nodded. And somewhere deep inside me something twisted. Over the next few days, Aaron changed, not in the way you'd expect. He became more attentive, more present. He started coming home earlier, cooking more, asking me how I felt, if I needed anything. It should have comforted me. Instead, it made my skin crawl, because it felt like preparation. One evening I came home later than usual. Lucas and I had met just to taco, which turned into something else entirely. When I walked through the door, Aaron was sitting at the dining table with 2 cups of tea. You didn't answer your phone, he said gently. I was busy, I replied, setting my bag down. He nodded, unbothered. I worry about you. That was new. I'm fine, I said sharply. He studied me for a moment, then smiled again. I know. That night I stood in the bathroom, staring at my reflection. I was good at this, at lying, at shifting blame. I'd convinced myself that Aaron was safe because he was predictable. But predictability, I was beginning to realize, could also be strategy. The next message from Lucas came while I was brushing my teeth. "You need to be careful. He's not stupid." I frowned at the screen. "Aaron wouldn't hurt anyone." I typed, "He's innocent." Lucas replied almost instantly. "That's what scares me." I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Aaron's smile again. Calm, knowing, patient, the smile of a man who believed in his wife. Completely. Or the smile of a man waiting. By the end of the week, Aaron suggested we invite his parents over for dinner. "To celebrate," he said. I agreed, my stomach tightening. As I set the table that evening, I felt something shift inside me, not fear, not guilt, but something sharper, because for the first time it occurred to me that if everything fell apart, it wouldn't be because of him, it would be because of me. And that realization didn't scare me nearly as much as it should have. Aaron raised his glass that night and said softly, "Two new beginnings." Everyone smiled, I did too. But as our eyes met across the table, I wondered something I had never wondered before. What if the most innocent person in this story wasn't the weakest one? And what if I was about to learn that too late? The dinner with Aaron's parents ended without incident. That should have reassured me. Instead, it unsettled me. His mother cried when we told her. His father hugged Aaron with a quiet pride that made my chest tighten in an unfamiliar way. They talked about baby names, about how the spare room could be turned into a nursery, about how life had a way of blessing good people when they least expected it. Good people. I smiled, nodded, played my role perfectly. Inside, I was counting exits. After they left, Aaron began clearing the table. I watched him move through the kitchen, comfortable, unhurried, humming softly under his breath. He had always done that when he was content. I used to find it endearing. Now it felt like background noise to a crime scene. "Do you okay?" he asked without turning around. "Just tired," I replied. "You should rest," he said. "You've been pushing yourself lately." There it was again. That gentle concern, that careful observation. I wondered how long he'd been watching me this closely. Later that night, while Aaron slept, I lay awake replaying everything Lucas had said. He's not stupid. Lucas had a way of seeing beneath surfaces. That was what drew me to him. He noticed what others missed. Patterns, hesitations, with truth people thought they hid. Aaron had never noticed, or maybe he had, and simply chose not to react. That thought lingered long after the room went dark. The next morning, Aaron kissed my forehead before leaving for work. "I'll be home early," he said. "I thought we could talk." "About what?" I asked, keeping my voice light. "About us," he replied. About the future." I forced a smile, of course. As soon as the door closed behind him, I exhaled slowly, like I'd been holding my breath for days. I met Lucas that afternoon. We chose a quiet cafe on the other side of town. One Aaron had never mentioned, never visited. Lucas arrived first, already seated, his eyes lifting the moment I walked in. "You look different," he said. "Pregnant," I replied flatly. "No," he said, cornered. I sat down, crossing my arms. "You're being dramatic." He leaned forward slightly. "You're being careful. There's a difference." I told him about the dinner, about Aaron's parents, about the way Aaron had been watching me. Lucas listened without interrupting, his expression unreadable in the smile. He asked when I finished. "Yes," I said quietly. That same calm smile. Lucas nodded once. "That's not fear." "What is it then?" "Acceptance," he said. "Or preparation." I laughed, a sharp sound that surprised even me. "You're paranoid," I asked, "or are you finally seeing that not reacting doesn't mean not knowing?" I left the cafe unsettled. Lucas's words followed me all the way home, curling around my thoughts like smoke. When Aaron arrived later that evening, exactly as promised, he greeted me with that same familiar warmth. "Did you rest?" he asked. "Well," I said. He smiled. "Goods." We sat together on the couch, his arm around my shoulders. I felt the weight of it, steady and grounding. For a moment, I wondered what it would be like to tell him the truth, all of it. To watch his world fracture, the thought didn't make me sad, it made me feel powerful. "Do you trust me?" Aaron asked. Suddenly, the question came out of nowhere, casual, almost careless. "Of course," I replied without hesitation. He nodded, satisfied. "I trust you too." That was the problem. Over the next few weeks, my life split cleanly in two. There was my life with Aaron, doctor's appointments, grocery lists, quiet evenings, careful conversations about baby furniture and finances. He was attentive without being intrusive, supportive without being smothering. Perfect. Then there was my life with Lucas, stolen hours, whispered conversations, the constant tension of secrecy. He was less patient now, more urgent. "You can't keep pretending forever," he said one night, his voice low. "This is going to end badly." "For who?" I asked. "For everyone," he replied. I smiled. "I doubt that." The pregnancy progressed normally. 2. Normally, Aaron attended every appointment, asked every question, took notes like this was the most important project of his life. The doctor praised him, nurses smiled at him. Other expectant mothers looked at me with envy. "You're lucky," one of them said in the waiting room. I nodded politely. Lucky wasn't the word I'd use. One evening, I came home to find Aaron in the spare room, measuring tape in hand. "I thought we could start planning the nursery," he said brightly. "Soon." I asked. "Why wait?" he replied. "I like being prepared." Prepared told the word echoed in my mind as I watched him mark the wall lightly with a pencil. That night, I texted Lucas, "He's planning the nursery." The reply came quickly. "You need to decide what you want." I stared at the message, irritation flaring. "I already have." There was a pause, then stop hesitating. The truth was, I enjoyed the hesitation. I enjoyed the control, the way I could move between two worlds without either man fully understanding the shape of the other. Aaron's innocence made it easy. Lucas's intensity made it thrilling. I told myself I deserved this. That marriage had dulled me. That motherhood would erase me if I let it. Cruel thoughts, perhaps, but honest ones. One afternoon, while Aaron was at work, I went through his desk. I wasn't looking for anything specific, just reassurance, evidence of naivety, proof that he wasn't paying attention. What I found instead were files, insurance documents, updated wills, emergency contacts, all revised recently. My name was everywhere. Beneath it, the babies. I sat back slowly, my pulse quickening. This wasn't suspicion, this was responsibility. And for the first time since the pregnancy began, something close to unease settled in my chest. That evening I confronted him casually. "You've been busy lately," I said, "with paperwork and planning." He smiled. "I want everything to be taken care of." "In case of what?" I asked lightly. He looked at me for a long moment. "Too long. In case life surprises us," he said finally. I laughed. "Life always does." "Yes," he agreed softly. "It does." That night I dreamed of standing in a room full of mirrors. Every reflection showed a different version of me. Smiling, lying, watching, and behind every reflection stood Aaron. Not angry, not accusing. Just waiting. When I woke, my phone buzzed. A message from Lucas. "I don't think he's as innocent as you think." I stared at the words, irritation rising again. "He is," I typed back. "You're projecting." The reply didn't come. For the first time, Lucas had nothing to say. At breakfast, Aaron poured me orange juice and placed the glass carefully in front of me. "Did you sleep okay?" he asked. "Yes," I said. He smiled. That same calm, patient smile. And as I watched him sit across from me, folding his hands neatly on the table, a thought crept into my mind, unwanted and persistent. What if innocence wasn't weakness? What if it was simply restraint? And what if the person who believed she was in control wasn't? The thought lingered long after he left for work, and for the first time, I felt something shift. Not guilt, not fear. Something closer to anticipation. The shift didn't announce itself loudly. It arrived quietly, the way rot settles into wood long before the surface cracks. I started noticing the small things first. Aaron's routines changed, not drastically, just enough to feel deliberate. He began leaving for work 10 minutes earlier. His phone was always face down now. He stopped asking casual questions about my day, replacing them with something more unsettling. Silence. Silence can be louder than suspicion. I tested him. One evening, I mentioned Lucas's name casually, as if it meant nothing. "Ran into Lucas today," I said, watching his reflection in the kitchen window. Aaron didn't freeze, didn't tense, didn't even pause while chopping vegetables. He said, "How is he?" "Busy," I replied. "Always busy." "That's good," Aaron said calmly. "Busy people don't overthink the knife." Tapped the cutting board once. Sharp. Controlled. Later that night, I replayed the conversation again and again. It wasn't what he said, it was how easily he said it. Lucas, on the other hand, was unraveling. He called me 3 times the next day. I ignored the first 2. When I finally answered, his voice was tight, clipped. "You're enjoying this too much," he said. "Enjoying what?" I asked again. He replied, "You, me, him. You think this is power?" "It is power," I said calmly. "No," Lucas snapped. "It's danger." I smiled despite myself. "You're afraid." "I'm realistic," he said. "Aaron isn't blind." "You keep saying that," I replied. "And yet here we are." There was a long pause. "You don't know him like you think you do," Lucas said quietly. "Neither do you," I thought, but I didn't say it. At my next doctor's appointment, Aaron insisted on coming along. He sat beside me, holding my hand, listening intently as the doctor explained milestones and precautions. He asked about diet, stress, sleep. His questions were thoughtful, precise, or prepared. The doctor smiled. "You're very involved," Aaron returned the smile. "This matters." I looked at him then, really looked. For a fleeting moment, I wondered what kind of man becomes this attentive, without suspicion driving him. That thought made me uncomfortable that night. I went through Aaron's laptop. I waited until he was asleep, his breathing slow and even. The password hadn't changed. It never had. I searched for messages, emails, anything that suggested doubt. There was nothing, no confrontations, no private notes, no evidence of investigation, just calendars, work files, lists of baby expenses, lists of future plans, lists of names. My throat tightened. This wasn't ignorance. This was commitment. The next morning, Aaron surprised me with breakfast in bed. You didn't have to, I said. I wanted to, he replied. You've seemed tense lately. I'm fine, I said quickly. He studied me for a moment, then nodded. If you say so. He kissed my forehead and stood to leave. As he reached the door, he stopped. By the way, he added casually, Lucas called yesterday. My heart skipped. I said, forcing. My tone remained steady. He wanted to know if you were feeling well, Aaron continued. I told him you were. When did he call? I asked. Midday, Aaron replied. While you were out. I smiled. That was thoughtful of him. Yes, Aaron said. Thoughtful. Lucas hadn't mentioned calling Aaron. That omission bothered me more than the call itself. I'd confronted him that evening. Why didn't you tell me you spoke to my husband? I asked. I didn't think it mattered, Lucas said. It does. I snapped. You don't get to decide what matters. He looked at me carefully, like someone studying an unfamiliar animal. You're changing, he said. I've always been this way, I replied. No, he said. You've just stopped pretending you weren't. Days passed, then weeks, nothing happened, no accusations, no discoveries, no explosions. The absence of consequence began to feel unnatural. I started making mistakes, leaving my phone unattended, coming home later than planned, forgetting details. Aaron never mentioned any of it. That was worse. One evening, while folding laundry together, Aaron spoke without looking at me. Do you believe people are born cruel? He asked. Or do they learn it? The question caught me off guard. I think people do what they need to survive, I said. He nodded slowly, and sometimes they enjoy it. I didn't respond. That night, I dreamed again. This time, I was standing at the edge of a cliff. Lucas was behind me, urging me forward. Aaron stood below, looking up, calm and patient. I woke with my heart racing. The next day, Lucas told me he wanted more. Choose, he said. I won't be your secret forever. You knew what this was? I replied. I knew what you told me it was, he said. Not this. This is reality, I said. If you can't handle it, that's not my problem. His eyes hardened. Be careful, he warned. You're underestimating him. I laughed. You're overestimating him. But even as I said it, doubt crept in. That evening, Aaron brought home a small gift, a silver bracelet. Or you, he said. Just because. I examined it closely. It was engraved always. My fingers trembled slightly as I clasped it around my wrists. Thank you, I said. He smiled. You're welcome. As he turned away, I noticed something new. Not suspicion. Not anger. Certainty. For the first time, a question surfaced that I could no longer silence. What if this story didn't end the way I imagined? What if innocence wasn't passive? What if it was patient? And what if patience, once exhausted, became something far more dangerous? The bracelet never left my wrist, not because I loved it, because I needed to remember that Aaron had chosen me without doubt, without hesitation. The weight of it was light, but the meaning pressed heavier each day. I began to feel watched, not followed, not monitored, observed. There is a difference. Aaron stopped asking questions altogether. No more where were you? No more who were you would. Instead, he filled the house with plans. He ordered furniture for the nursery, painted the walls himself, installed shelves with quiet care. He researched strollers and car seats late into the night, sitting beside me on the couch while I pretended to scroll through my phone. He was building a future and I was slowly dismantling it. Lucas grew impatient. You're disappearing, he said one night, his voice sharp with resentment. I'm pregnant, I replied. That changes things. It shouldn't change this, he snapped. Not between us. I studied his face, once so confident, now marked by frustration. You knew I was married, I said calmly. Yes, he said. But I didn't know. You were cruel. The word landed harder than I expected at home. Aaron surprised me again. I took a day off next week, he said casually over dinner. Why? I asked. I want us to get away, he replied, just for a night. Somewhere quiet. My fork paused midair when I asked Friday. He said, I already booked it. You didn't ask me, I said. I know, he replied gently. I thought it would be nice. It wasn't nice. It felt like a tightening circle. That night I met Lucas one last time. Before the trip we should stop, I told him, my voice steady. His eyes widened slightly. You don't mean that. I do, I said. This is over. For him, he asked bitterly. For me, I replied. He leaned back, studying me with a look that made my skin prickle. You think you're in control? he said slowly. But you're standing between two men who want very different things. I can handle it, I said. He smiled without warmth. That's what everyone says before they lose. Friday came too quickly. The drive was quiet, filled with soft music and long stretches of silence. Aaron's hand rested on my knee, warm and steady. I stared out the window, my thoughts spiraling. The cabin was remote, peaceful, surrounded by trees that swallowed sound. This is beautiful, I said automatically. I'm glad you like it, Aaron replied. That smile again. That evening after dinner, Aaron poured tea and sat across from me. I want to talk, he said. My heart thudded. About what? I asked. About honesty, he replied. The word hung between us. I think honesty isn't always about truth, he continued. Sometimes it's about intention. I swallowed. What are you saying? I'm saying, he said softly, that people can lie and still believe they're doing the right thing. I felt heat rise in my chest. Are you accusing me of something? I asked. No, he replied calmly. I'm trusting you with something. That was worse. Later that night I lay awake listening to the forest breathe. Aaron slept beside me, peaceful. I wondered what would happen if I told him everything right then, if I shattered the illusion he so carefully protected. The idea filled me with a strange excitement the next morning. I woke early and stepped outside. My phone buzzed. A message from Lucas. He knows. My pulse spiked. You're imagining things. I typed. The reply came instantly. I'm not. When I went back inside, Aaron was already awake, making coffee. You look pale, he said. Did you sleep? Not really, I replied. He nodded. Neither did I. We stood in silence, steam rising between us. Aaron, I began. Yes, he said. For a moment I almost confessed. Almost I love you, I said. Instead he smiled. Softly. I know the drive home was quieter than the drive there. When we pulled into the driveway, Aaron turned to me. Whatever happens next, he said, I want you to remember something. What? I asked. That I never lied to you, he said. Not once. I forced a smile. Neither did I thought. I just never told the whole truth. That night, as I lay in bed, my phone buzzed again. Another message from Lucas. You should be scared now. I stared at the screen, irritation flaring. Of you, I typed. The reply came slowly. Of yourself. I set the phone down and closed my eyes. For the first time since this began, I felt something unfamiliar. Not fear of being caught, fear of what I was becoming, and fear of what Aaron might do if he ever stopped being innocent. Fear changes texture when it stays too long. It stops being sharp and sudden. It becomes dull, heavy, constant. I carried it with me everywhere. After that night, Aaron became quieter, more distant ever. That he was still attentive, still gentle, still present in every way that mattered. But the softness in him had settled into something firmer, like a decision already made. He woke before me. He slept without stirring. He listened more than he spoke. And every time our eyes met, I felt like I was standing in front of someone who already knew the ending. Lucas started unraveling completely. His messages came at odd hours, long, frantic paragraphs followed by sudden silence. He wanted reassurance. He wanted answers. He wanted promises I had never made. You're calm, he said during one tense call. How can you be so calm? Because this isn't my problem, I replied. Trouble me nearly enough. One evening Aaron asked for my phone. Mine's dead, he said casually. I need to make a quick call. The request was innocent. My reaction wasn't a flicker, a pause, a fraction of a second too long. Aaron noticed. Of course he did. Oh, he said softly, handing it back. Never mind. That night, I barely slept out the next day. Lucas crossed the line. He showed up not at my house, not at my work, at Aaron's office. I found out when Aaron told me over dinner Lucas stopped by today. He said calmly. My fork slipped from my fingers and clattered onto the plate, I said, forcing a laugh. Why? He said he was worried about you, Aaron replied. About the stress. That was unnecessary, I said. Yes, Aaron agreed. He watched me closely as he spoke. Lucas texted me an hour later. I had to see him. I didn't reply. That night, Aaron didn't touch me. He lay beside me, his back turned, his breathing steady. I stared at the ceiling, my mind racing. For the first time, the possibility of consequences felt real, not exposure, not confrontation. Lost the following week. Aaron asked me to sign something. Just some paperwork, he said. Future planning. I skimmed it too quickly. Too carelessly. Trust had made me lazy. Lucas became reckless. He demanded answers. Threatened honest. Because this isn't my problem, I replied. That's a lie, he snapped. This is all because of you, I smiled. Everything is because of choices. He laughed bitterly. You think you're untouchable? I know I am, I said. But the words tasted wrong in my mouth. The baby kicked for the first time that week. Aaron felt it before I did. His face softened in a way I hadn't seen before. Real emotion, unfiltered. He knelt in front of me, pressing his ear to my stomach, smiling like a man who finally believed in something permanent. Hello, he whispered. I'm here. I watched him, detached. The life growing inside me felt less like a miracle and more like leverage, and that realization didn't trouble me nearly enough. One evening, Aaron asked for my phone. "Mine's dead," he said casually. "I need to make a quick call." The request was innocent. My reaction wasn't a flicker, a pause, a fraction of a second too long. Aaron noticed, of course he did. "Oh," he said softly, handing it back. "Never mind." That night, I barely slept. The next day, Lucas crossed a line. He showed up, not at my house, not at my work, at Aaron's office. I found out when Aaron told me over dinner. "Lucas stopped by today," he said calmly. My fork slipped from my fingers and clattered onto the plate. I said, forcing a laugh. "Why?" "He said he was worried about you," Aaron replied. "About the stress. That was unnecessary," I said. "Yes," Aaron agreed. "It was." He watched me closely as he spoke. "Lucas texted me an hour later. I had to see him." I didn't reply that night. Aaron didn't touch me. He lay beside me, his back turned, his breathing steady. I stared at the ceiling, my mind racing. For the first time, the possibility of consequences felt real. Not exposure, not confrontation, loss. The following week, Aaron asked me to sign something. "Just some paperwork," he said. "Future planning." I skimmed it too quickly, too carelessly. Trust it made me lazy. Lucas became reckless. He demanded answers, threatened honesty, spoke of telling Aaron everything. "If I didn't choose him, you won't," I said flatly. "Watch me," he replied. I ended the call and blocked his number. For the first time, I felt relief. That relief lasted exactly one day. Aaron came home early. He placed a folder on the table between us. "Do you know what this is?" he asked. I glanced at it. "Legal documents." My signature stared back at me from the page. My stomach dropped. "You signed this," he continued gently. "You didn't read it." My mouth went dry. "It's for protection," he said. "For the baby, for us, for you," I said quietly. He met my eyes. "No," he replied. "From you." Silence swallowed the room. I wanted to laugh, to deny, to accuse him of paranoia. But something in his expression stopped me. There was no anger there, only certainty. "I've loved you completely," Aaron said, "even when you didn't deserve it." I felt something crack. Not guilt. Recognition. That night, Lucas sent one final message from an unknown number. "He knows everything." I stared at the screen this time. I believed him. And for the first time since this began, I understood something clearly. In every story, someone thinks they're the villain. But the truly dangerous ones are the ones who never meant to be. The truth didn't arrive loudly. It crept in. It sat between us at breakfast. Untouched coffee growing cold. It lingered in the hallway where our wedding photo still hung. Smiling faces frozen in a lie I had perfected. Aaron knew. Not suspected. Not guessed. Knew. He didn't confront me right away. That was the worst part. He continued living with precision, making dinner, asking about my day, adjusting the pillow behind my back when I sat too long. Kindness became unbearable. Every gentle act felt like a sentence being slowly read aloud. Lucas disappeared. No messages, no calls, no reckless appearances. At first I thought Aaron had threatened him. Then I realized something far more terrifying. Aaron didn't need to. One evening, Aaron asked me to walk with him. Just a walk. The neighborhood was quiet. Streetlights flickered on. The air smelled like rain. "Do you remember our first apartment?" he asked. "Yes," I replied cautiously. "You said you loved how safe it felt," he continued, "that nothing bad could happen there." I nodded. "I believed you," he said softly. The pause that followed felt intentional. Measured. Double quotes. "I know about Lucas," Aaron said. There it was. No accusation, no raised voice. Just a fact. My instinct was denial, but exhaustion won. "How long?" I asked instead. "Long enough," he replied. I stopped walking. He didn't. "You were never careless," he went on. "You were strategic. You thought that made you smarter." I felt my throat tighten. "You checked phones, deleted messages, created emotional chaos so I'd doubt myself." Each word landed exactly where it was meant to. "But you underestimated one thing," Aaron said, finally turning to face me. I looked up. His eyes weren't angry, they were disappointed. "I loved you enough to listen," he said. "And you talked more than you realized." I tried to speak. Nothing came out. He continued walking. I followed, like I always had at home. He opened the folder again. Documents, screenshots, timelines, every secret laid out neatly. Lucas's involvement, the financial shifts, the manipulation. And then the part that hollowed me out. Custody arrangements, not accusations. "Evidence. You plan to leave," Aaron said. "You plan to take everything." "That's not how I started," he interrupted gently. "And it's okay to admit it now." I stared at the papers. At myself, reflected in legal language. "I won't destroy you," Aaron said. "I won't scream. I won't expose you publicly." I looked up, hope flickering, but I will protect what's mine, he continued. The hope died. The baby kicked again, harder this time. I pressed my hand to my stomach, suddenly unsure who I was protecting anymore. I filed first, Aaron said, quietly. Correctly, you'll have access. You'll have access, he added. Support, stability, but not control. I whispered. He nodded. Lucas tried to contact me 2 days later. One message, he ruined everything. I deleted it without responding. For the first time, Lucas felt irrelevant. Aaron moved into the guest room. No drama, no explanation, just space. At night, I replayed everything, every lie, every calculated smile, every moment I mistook cruelty for intelligence. I had believed power meant never being caught. I was wrong. Power was patience. One morning, I woke to an empty house. Aaron had left early. On the counter was a note. I hope one day you understand what you lost. I sat down slowly. The house felt different, not broken, final. I had wanted freedom. What I earned instead was distance. And for the first time in my life, no one was chasing me, no one was fighting for me, no one was begging. I stood alone in the quiet and finally understood the cruelest truth of all. I hadn't been outsmarted, I had been seen. Silence has a way of revealing who you really are. Not the dramatic kind, the empty kind, the kind that waits for you when there's no one left to deceive. The house became too big. Every room echoed with memories that no longer belonged to me. I moved slowly now, careful with my body, careful with my thoughts, careful with the truth. Aaron didn't return my calls. He didn't block me, he simply didn't respond, and that restraint hurt more than rage ever could. The court dates arrived. Quietly, no spectacle, no whispers, just paperwork and professionalism. Aaron sat across from me, composed, polite, distant. He never looked at me longer than necessary. I wanted him to hate me. Hate what it meant. I still mattered. Lucas tried again. A letter this time. Handwritten. Desperate. He spoke of love, of fear, of how everything had gone wrong because we hadn't been brave enough. I folded it carefully, then threw it away for the first time. I saw him clearly, not a partner, a mirror. The baby grew heavier, so did the weight inside my chest. Doctors spoke, lawyers spoke, everyone spoke about the future, no one asked about the past. It didn't matter anymore. One afternoon, I found myself outside Aaron's office. I don't remember deciding to go there. I just arrived. I didn't go inside. I watched through the glass as he laughed. With a colleague, it was soft, unforced. I had never caused that laugh. I had only borrowed it. I went home and packed a box, just one. The rest would be handled later. There was no urgency, nothing left to fight for that night. I dreamed of our wedding, not the ceremony. The moment before when he took my hands and whispered, "We're safe now." I woke up crying, not because I missed him, because I finally understood what safety had meant. The judge's decision came faster than I expected. Shared custody, clear boundaries, a life redesigned by consequence. Aaron never argued, he never pushed, he let the truth speak. Afterward, as we stood outside the courthouse, he spoke to me for the first time in weeks. "You don't have to be cruel anymore," he said. And I looked at him. "I don't know how to be anything else," I replied. He nodded and walked away. Lucas vanished completely after that. No more messages, no more threats. Whatever fantasy we had built collapsed under the weight of reality. The nursery remained unfinished, paint cans untouched, toys still in boxes. I sat on the floor, one evening surrounded by things meant for a life I had dismantled. And for the first time, I felt something close to remorse, not for getting caught, but for never understanding love when it was given freely. I placed my hand on my stomach. "I'll do better," I whispered. I wasn't sure to whom, the child or myself. For years I believed control was the same as strength. Now I knew better. Strength would be learning to live without either, and that realization, that was the real punishment. The end arrived quietly, as all true reckonings do. The baby was born on a pale, rainy morning. The world seemed hushed, as if it, too, were waiting. Aaron arrived after the nurse called him. Not rushing, not late, just present. He stood beside the crib, looking down at the tiny life we had created together, our only real collaboration. "She's beautiful," he said softly. I nodded. "She deserves honesty," he added. I swallowed hard. "She'll get it," I replied. It was the first promise I'd made without an angle. We spoke only about what mattered. Schedules, care, stability. No blame, no accusations. Some things didn't require explanations. The house felt different, not empty, just neutral. A place to start over, not reclaim. I removed the wedding photo from the wall and placed it face down in a drawer, not out of anger, out of respect for what it had once been. Life became smaller. Doctor visits, feeding times, sleepless nights. No secrets, no performances, just exhaustion and truth. Aaron kept his distance, but he never disappeared. He showed up when he said he would. He held his daughter with reverence. He never spoke badly of me. That was his final act of mercy. I replayed memories not of Lucas, not of the affair but of Aaron's patience, how he listened, how he waited, how he loved without conditions I never respected. Regret arrived late, but it arrived fully formed. World treated me differently. Friends kept distance. Invitations faded. Conversations shortened. I couldn't blame them. I had trained people not to trust depth. Lucas vanished completely. No messages, no threats, no attempts. Whatever fantasy we had built collapsed under the weight of reality. I sometimes think about the joke that started it all. The careless words that exposed everything. The cruelty I mistook for confidence. I don't tell this story to be forgiven. I tell it to be understood. Love isn't loud. It doesn't threaten. It doesn't manipulate. It waits. And if you're not careful, you destroy it before you ever realize it was holding you together. Months passed. My daughter grew. I grew. Slowly, quietly. I learned to live without manipulation, without chaos, without needing control. Aaron remained patient, always present but never overbearing. We shared responsibility, not intimacy. I understood finally. Strength isn't in domination. Strength is in restraint. Strength is love given without expectation. Life became simple, quiet, real. And sometimes, late at night, when the house is still, I catch myself smiling not because I won, not because I cheated, but because I survived. And I was finally free. If you're watching this story right now, wherever you are, thank you for staying until the end. If this story gripped you, don't keep it to yourself. Subscribe, like, share it with someone you love. Because sometimes the greatest lesson is learning the cost of taking love for granted. Months passed. My daughter grew. I grew. Slowly, quietly. I learned to live without manipulation, without chaos, without needing control. Aaron remained patient, always present but never overbearing. We shared responsibility, not intimacy. I understood finally. Strength isn't in domination. Strength is in restraint. Strength is love given without expectation. Life became simple, quiet, real. And sometimes, late at night, when the house is still, I catch myself smiling not because I won, not because I cheated, but because I survived. And I was finally free. If you're watching this story right now, wherever you are, thank you for staying until the end. If this story gripped you, don't keep it to yourself. Subscribe, like, share it with someone you love. Because sometimes the greatest lesson is learning the cost of taking love for granted.